Hello, welcome back to From Soft Serve. We're back in the town of Yharnam for Bloodborne on PC. This is my PC Remaster Mod, which for the uninitiated, understandably, I worked to get dynamic shadows working for the entire world, which I succeeded with. These are all dynamic shadows. We didn't see this quantity of dynamic shadows until Sekiro for From Software, so I wasn't entirely sure this was going to work. And then I've carefully removed baked lighting in different spots to really allow the dynamic shadows to shine, but you'll see that they're incredibly stable as you rotate the camera. They don't really degrade at all. They are not the most sharp, but I actually think they look more realistic because they're not, massively super high resolution. But they are higher resolution than the baked lighting looked, and so that's why we use them, but that's actually not the main reason. The main reason is that by default, in the unmodded game, your character, because there was no actual like sun shadows, it was all done through baked lighting, understandably, is that how do you handle your character going underneath a shadowed region? Because you don't actually have a shadow being cast, so it's not going to cover your character naturally as a shadow would. So they had a system where they understood what was shadowed and what was not, generally. And so your character, like for instance here, your character would, in the lit region, would be totally lit. And then when you would walk into a shadowed region, your character would basically, it would like interpolate into now your character's dark. And it would work pretty well. But the big benefit of dynamic shadows is that, and I also disabled the player mask, that how the game handles the player. And so now when you walk into a shadowed region, you'll actually see the shadows dance on your character naturally. So you can stop in between the shadowed region and the bright region, and you'll actually see it correctly cuts down the middle of your character, and you can actually walk and see the shadows. So that's a minor thing, but for me that was a huge goal of the mod, is I've always wanted the player to be perfectly blended into the environment, so it's one and the same. FromSoft would understandably separate the character out and make them a little bit more visible. But I tended to think that detracted a bit, and honestly, I think you can see perfectly fine as is. Now, beyond that in my mod, I've also, here you can see a good example, I've modified the mesh LODs, so they use the higher quality ones at a distance. It's not completely done, because their system was a little bit wonky. But the other thing is reflectance maps. So the game, for each surface, generally, they had an albedo map, or a diffuse map, or a color map, whatever you want to call it, a normal map, which handles the simulated depth, and then it has a reflectance map and a shininess map. So sort of a structure of a PBR workflow, right? And basically, I edited these reflectance maps to bring them a little bit closer to how FromSoft would handle them in their later games. And so it's a little bit less wet and slimy, but it still is. It's just there's a better difference between the wet and dry regions or not regions, or parts of a surface, right? And so that's kind of the material look that you're going to get. So it is a little bit different. Now, the other thing I'm really excited about is I figured out how Bloodborne handles parallax occlusion mapping, which is basically a fancy visual technique to add simulated depth to surfaces by using a height map, and then it basically creates the simulated geometric look. And that's what you're seeing on these bricks on the ground here. And on a lot of the other surfaces, the brick, I've basically gone in and I found out by looking at how they had done it on a very small handful. They did not use parallax occlusion mapping much at all. They have a very checkered history where they don't really like using it. They have stopped using it in Sekiro and beyond. It just doesn't exist anymore, that I've found. They've used it a handful of times in Bloodborne, DS3, DS2, DS1 didn't use it. And so there were actual height maps that they had made for a lot of these surfaces that were actually just not used. And so I found out that the height map gets stored in the blue channel, the blue RGB channel of the normal map. And so you can actually generate a height map, store it in there, repack the texture, and so now a lot of the surfaces will have increased depth. Now, there is a caveat there that I think is important to point out, is that you'll see on this ground, there's a lot of these like little heaps of, they actually call it like a pavement heap in the game files. And they were using these to get around using like full geometric rendering. Or not geometric rendering, but essentially these little piles here added a little bit of geometric depth to the scene where they were not relying purely on a normal map. Now, had they been using parallax occlusion mapping, they necessarily wouldn't have had to do these little heaps of pavement, and they don't blend in perfectly with the new parallax, but I think it's still quite good. I think it works. Now, the flickering you're seeing here, by the way, that is a mesh issue. Oh my god, I thought that guy was going to get me. That was a clutch dodge, by the way. The flickering is actually a limitation with, it seems like the emulator at this point. Maybe it is because I enabled dynamic shadows on this mesh, which is what I've done for everything else, but for some reason, certain meshes, specifically in Central Yharnam, it seems, they have an issue where the shadow can't seem to understand what is the mesh and what isn't. There's a layer problem where it's, you would almost assume it's a backface culling problem with how they handle, well, the back faces of the mesh, because by default they will disable those to save performance, because the player can't see the back face of that mesh, so why render it, right? And that's why they have backface culling. In this case, that's actually not the issue. I've undid the backface culling, I went in and edited the model, and it still does this, so I'm hoping that maybe it's an emulator thing. It's theoretically possible, or maybe it's just a thing that needs to be edited in Blender at some point. It's up to you how distracting that will be. Now, the other part of the mod is an optional part, in a sense. I have disabled the in-game anti-aliasing. You can actually do this through the patch menu in Shad PS4 now. I did it at the G-param level because that is the only way that was available to me back then. And I also think it's a good idea with the mod to just include that versus making people like enable the patch in the patch menu for Shad PS4, since that's like separate. And basically I disabled it because it was dog shit anti-aliasing. It's FXAA, it's what was used in DS3, and it's terrible. I wouldn't even call it anti-aliasing, which, for those uninitiated, anti-aliasing is basically the softening, the blurring, the targeted, strategic blurring of edges to basically not have a bunch of jaggies everywhere. And so I'm running the game at 1080p 30 FPS. People might be wondering why. I still find I have the most stability running it at 30 FPS. I can get 60 frames, but it's very uneven. NVIDIA cards seem to have a little bit of a performance regression within the last period of time for the emulator, so I am running a 4060 Ti 16 gigabytes, a Ryzen, or an NVIDIA 4060 Ti. Did I say a Ryzen 4060 Ti? An NVIDIA 4060 Ti 16 gigabyte. We don't like the 8 gigabyte model. And then the Ryzen 5700X processor, which is decent, but by no means like insane. There are much better processors. And I get a very, very stable 30 FPS, 1080p experience. I can also do 1440p, and it's quite good. You have to do some other patches to kind of get the high resolution patches to work. But by and large, I have a really good experience there, and I'm used to 30 FPS. Eventually, I'd like to go to 60 when it's more stable. For me, I just can't maintain it, and it fluctuates a lot, specifically with my mod too. So the optional portion of my mod I was talking about is the Reshade preset. So I can actually disable the Reshade preset, and you'll notice that it basically still looks very much the same because 90% of my mod is done through map edits and material work, and that's my preferred way, and like G-param edits. But there's a portion that I think Reshade has a role to play. And so you'll see that it is temporal anti-aliasing. It is real TAA. Is it as good as the native implementation? No, it definitely is not. But it's quite good. I switched over to a different shader, which is called directional spatiotemporal anti-aliasing. And I've toggled it and kind of configured it, and you can go in here and mess with all of that to dial in the settings that you like. But I have a balance between sharpening and the blurring, and I think it actually works really well, honestly, versus specifically what we had in Bloodborne to begin with. And we also have some large-scale perceptual obscurance or radiance, which you can see kind of just balances where the darkness and light should be. I don't have any sort of global illumination shader, as currently they still have too many different drawbacks that I haven't been able to get it to work and not have like artifacting, so I haven't really put that in. But I do think the ambient light shader is a really nice classic reshade shader. Where, let's see if I can get the sun in the view here, because I think it actually does a really nice job of, I don't know, just blending in the sun a little bit more, specifically if you don't have like light shafts or anything, which on certain maps on Bloodborne they have the light shafts enabled, and sometimes they don't. And so here you can kind of see the ambient light will just add, as it says, ambient light around like big light sources like that. And I think it looks quite good. The depth of field is actually handled by the G-params themselves. I don't have any shader for that. I know a lot of reshade shaders will try to use a depth of field thing, and I've toyed around with it, but I tend to like the in-game depth of field. And so that's the other thing. This mod, I probably should have mentioned that a lot beforehand, but I have modified the G-params, which are the atmosphere configurations for, they control basically everything of how the maps look, from ambient occlusion to how they handle normal maps, to how they handle light maps, to the sun, to shadows, to light shafts, to basically everything. The visual makeup of every area is inside these text files known as G-params. And I have configured every one of them for every map for the different versions, and so that is why the game looks the way that it does, which I do think it's important to point out that this mod is not the most authentic version of Bloodborne. That will always be the unmodded game. So I do want to be clear about that. This is not the most authentic version. The current version of my remaster mod is probably the least authentic. Well, not least authentic. I think generally you'll find it to be close, because I don't try to stray very far from it. But I have not done like a specific pass on each area to like really dial it in to make sure it looks identical, right, or as close as possible. Like, because I do find that very important. I find Bloodborne's visuals very, very like, I have a lot of reverence for it, so I'm hoping that my current mod work is not too far away from it. But that's just been me and my modding process, which is very messy. So you can expect a later pass of sort of dialing in the areas to make sure that they're not like way different. Oh yeah, we need to go to a different part of the map. Let's go down here, because I need to show you I think my favorite part of showing off the new dynamic shadows. So I'm gonna run by a lot of people, don't worry about it. Ooh, yeah, you saw a little something there. I can't tell if that, I think that was like a small vertex explosion, which is a problem that the emulators had for a while, and there's like mods that fix it, but lately I've been really lucky and I haven't had to run any sort of fix. I'm literally actually just running my mod, and that's it. Oh, beast, I know. Alright, let's go this way, because this is my favorite place to show all of the extra dynamic shadows. So you'll see here, all these trees, I'm like 99% sure, my memory's bad, but generally these trees did not cast a shadow. in the baked lighting. They were not included in the bake. So now when you walk through this region, you have dynamic shadows everywhere, all over the environment, that are new, because it's actually casting a shadow from the sun. Is it the most realistic? Probably not, because here you can't really see the sun very much, but you are seeing the shadows, but it's close enough. And I also, thanks to Trivia, which Trivia has helped me so much with so much of this, with understanding the dynamic shadow direction, like the coordinates for the dynamic shadows, to make sure that they match up to the different bakes that they did for the different, because Central Yharnam changes throughout the game, right? It has like 3 different versions, technically 4, but only 3 I think are noticeable, but there's technically like a 4th one that doesn't get used. I'm kind of also talking out of my ass a little bit as far as like what I remember and what I don't. So if I'm wrong on something, I do apologize, but that is what I remember. They have 4 different MSB files for Central Yharnam. They have like 3 for Cathedral Ward. They have 2 for Old Yharnam. There's basically different versions based upon how you progress through the game, and so it does make modding Bloodborne harder, right? I also made this blue spotlight here, shadow casting. And this is actually a really interesting thing to talk about because, well, let me kill this guy first. So this blue spotlight, you can see it's... Okay, actually, let's go kill this guy first. Oh my god, that sidestep was kind of nasty, right? Also, look at all these tree shadows. It looks so good. They're so stable, and you can see how the tree shadows are obviously hitting the enemies, and, you know... it just looks really natural. I forget that this motherfucker just walks all the way from where he's at. Like, talk about rude, big dog. Okay, I actually thought that was gonna kill. That killed you. Give me your 2 blood vials. Nice. So this blue spotlight that you see here is an interesting case where you could remove this spotlight because it's not actually based on anything, right? Like, there's no actual basis for this spotlight, but I'm okay with that. So I kept it, of course, because I think it looks cool, and I made it shadow casting, so now you actually get a shadow from your character. The spotlight shadows don't look great in Bloodborne. You can see my character is a little too dark. Well, not too dark, too thin. The shadow just kind of looks a little strange. There's a little degradation that happens with these spotlight shadows. I don't entirely know why. That's just kind of how Bloodborne does it. But you can see up here the sun shadows are really, really impressive. Just with how stable they are. Except for the flickering on like that little mesh there. But generally, you're just getting so many added shadows that were just not included originally. And I do understand side-by-sides would be a better way of showing this, but such is life. That's also a lot harder to produce and takes a lot more time. Hey, here's the issue that still happens in the emulator currently, at least with my mod, is it will seemingly run out of memory. And so if you ever just want to fix that, where something just doesn't load, you can just log out, log back in, boom, 2 seconds, and then it's fine. It mostly just happens in Central Yharnam because it's the most like heavy area in the game as far as how much is being rendered and how central it is. I hate myself. And so that can still happen. I'm not using upscaled textures anymore, so I'm not 100% sure why that's happening. That's what I thought was the cause of it, right? Turns out it might be something else. But anyway, I think I've shown enough of the mod for this video, and I hope you've enjoyed it, and you can download the latest version below. I have a link to Nexus Mods. Now, you might be wondering, well, how do I get Bloodborne set up on PC, and how do I dump my copy from my PS4? Well, I can't as much help with that, because I've done it, but I'm not an expert to make a video on that at all. If you want to do that, there's 8,000 different YouTube videos that show you how to dump your copy of Bloodborne. And then I could make a video, I already have, but I probably should update it, 'cause it's been a long time, of downloading Shad PS4 and then kind of the settings on that. But it's not hard. You can join the Discord for Shad PS4. I'll link Shad PS4 down below. I'll actually link the build that I use, which is a specific fork for Bloodborne. Yeah, I've had pretty good stability with it. I still crash occasionally when I hit an enemy, and then I just log on to a different character, and then it works again. Can't really tell you why that happens, but, you know, just so you know that, like, it's not a flawless experience. But I think, as you've seen in this video, it's eminently playable, and you can beat the whole game on the emulator. We've been able to do that for a long time, to be honest. But with my mod, I think it honestly does look incredible. Actually, you know what? Screw it, I'm not ending this video yet. Also, that surface still looks weird, but it has been for like a year now. Yeah, let's actually go back. Let's use our Hunter's Mark, because this is like a new character that I don't care about. So let's show you real quick the Hunter's Dream and Old Yharnam. Ooh, I gotta log on to my other character. That's true. I forgot this guy does not have Cathedral Ward or anything. Although I will go to the Hunter's Dream real quick, and you can get a sense, because that has the same upgrades of dynamic shadows, parallax occlusion mapping, roughness maps changes, point lights added or removed, but mostly just added, like a small point light on each one of these to match up with the candles, things like that. You can expect a lot of those throughout the world. You can see that there's added geometric depth on these rocks, which actually extends all the way over here. And then we have a better height map on this texture as well. And yeah, I mean, that's the gist of it, is basically, dynamic shadows, cool. Parallax occlusion mapping, cool. But let's log on to the other character and go to Old Yharnam, which I actually think is probably the best looking area currently. But realistically, they all, I think, look quite good. Okay, so this is in the other time for Central Yharnam. This is the first time jump of Central Yharnam. And they all have slightly different looks. And so the sun moves a little bit. And so the atmosphere will be a little different. Maybe. Okay, I only have 752. I actually do not care about that. So let's just use a Hunter's Mark. Let's go back, and we're gonna go to Old Yharnam. I think I can get this video done under 30 minutes. That's the goal. That's the goal. I don't need to go too crazy. Okay, well, I didn't know that would be my starting spot. Oops. You can see that the load times are decent. You know, they're not as quick as I think their later games. They're still loading it, I think. Maybe still in an inefficient way. But it's pretty solid, considering we're using like an SSD, right? So let's go to Old Yharnam. Because I think Old Yharnam, as I said earlier, I think it's probably the coolest looking spot in the game right now. But that's probably just recency bias, because I went there recently and I was playing through it, and I beat the Blood-Starved Beast. Okay, let's get my torch out. And let's put it immediately right back in my pants. And let's slow walk. Let's let the bit rate soak a little bit. Ooh, got an object over there. Nice. And so you can see the reflectance map changes. And I've actually started to remake the specular maps in a higher resolution. Because they were pretty low resolution to start with. So making those at higher resolution, but not matching the albedo resolution. But, well, sometimes. It depends. I'll be remaking them on a case-by-case basis. But here, I think it looks insane. Once again, you have the dynamic shadows for the whole world, reflectance map changes, parallax occlusion mapping added to a lot of the surfaces. I think it just looks, honestly, kind of insane. Like, if we're being open and honest with each other right now, I think it looks insane. You know, I don't like to toot my own horn, other than having an entire YouTube channel devoted to that. Aside from that, I don't think I toot my own horn at all. except for on Twitter and privately and all the time. But aside from that, I think I'm very humble. I think I'm actually the most humble, like exceedingly more humble than everyone else, and I think that counts for something. I'm also a goofy goober, so that's part of it. And I get loopy during the... yeah, here's the... This bug always happens in this one very specific spot. Oh god, he's coming for me. Oops, nope, I gotta quit out. Sorry, big dog. Alright, let's go back in. The good thing is, yeah, like quitting out and loading back in is so quick that it's not a huge issue. Like, because then you go, aha, room is back. And it's super fast. Oh my god, look at that transform attack. That was so sick. Also, the whip, the threaded cane, if you will, is goated. Some people seem to treat the threaded cane as if it kicked their dog and burnt their house down, but I'm like, I don't know. I think it's pretty good. Okay, yeah, go shoot those. Okay, that's Jura, I think, right? He's a cool guy. We like him, but he currently doesn't trust us, so. And also, I'm just kind of running through really quickly. Don't worry about it. Oh, found another object that was the wrong color. It's blue. Actually, real quick. Oh my god, I'm actually really surprised I got up there. Yeah, there's that other hunter guy. I haven't fucked with him yet. But I will. Oh, but I will. Let's see if I can shoot him off the top here. So I need to make sure I get my gun out. Do I? Oh, I have 13 bullets. Okay, so if I do this correctly, I should be able to shoot him off and use the cheese method. Also a good excuse to look at the dynamic shadows as you traverse this building. Alright, let me drink some coffee and water because I've been talking a lot, which is very classic. Man, it looks awesome though. Especially with the red sky. Come on. Okay, I'm gonna shoot the fuck out of this guy. He's gonna have no idea what's happening. Okay, it didn't work. Chat, it didn't work. He's cracked out of his mind, and it didn't work. Oh, okay. I mean, I think that kind of counted, right? Oh, are we sure? Are we sure that didn't count? Okay, we got those fucking fat-ass bullets. Like, I don't think that's... Yeah, man, they shoot quick, dog. Yeah, there you go. I need... Man, his weapon's so cool. I still think I can hit you off, but I'm pretty sure you're gonna kill me. Like, if we're being real right now, you're incredibly strong. I'm pretty sure you're gonna beat the fuck out of me. Yeah, I mean, that's... Oh, he didn't shoot me? That's a little surprising, actually. Usually he ends up flying off, which I think is really funny. Dude, your dodging is insane. I hope you know that. Yeah, there he goes. He always goes a little too ham, like a little too punk rock. And the problem is his corpse. You guys actually climb the ladder? See, here's part of the problem. His corpse will commonly just get left in a spot that you can't get. Let's see if quitting out helps. I kind of doubt it, because that's where the object landed. So I'm hoping that the game will be really cool. And I think I've had it happen before, where they move his loot. Because otherwise you just can't get it. And that sucks. Also, you probably shouldn't kill him anyway, because he's actually a really cool guy. And this is all the extra stuff for people that enjoy this extra shit. Because I've already given up all the cool things of this mod and told you to go download it. Yeah, they moved it. Nice. There you go. So there's a pro tip. I will say that doesn't look very good in the distance. There's kind of like the skyline level, and then it runs out of geometry, it seems, to cover that up. I don't know. Those are things where I have to like check the base game and be like, does that look bad? That might just look bad. And I'll have to fix it. But yeah, I think this is a good spot to end it. Now that you've seen old Yharnam, and I think you've seen some very cash money looking oh, actually, this is an interesting case where you can see the old baked lighting is still here partially. And then you can see the tower here is the dynamic shadow, and then this is the baked shadow version, which definitely there's an argument to be made that the baked one is a little bit more. I mean, it's accurate in a sense that it's very, you know, blurred because of its distance from the shadow casting like entity, which is normal, but I think we can also agree that it's a little too low resolution. So somewhere in between the two of these would be the ideal situation. But I still tend to prefer the sharper shadow, all things considered. And this is also an LOD model that's over here. So you can see it's a little bit lower quality. I probably should add some clutter to where these trees are, because you can see like there's just not a lot of detail. It's like a flat surface. There's a lot of these in Bloodborne actually, that presumably they hid with depth of field, and I am using the depth of field, but like you can still, there's some rough edges to Bloodborne for sure. DS3 has these as well that you're like, oof, okay, that actually doesn't look great. If you really try to look closely, there's some pretty low quality assets that are not actually that far from the camera, but that's okay. And I apologize, or I forgive you, Miyazaki. But anyway, thank you for watching. You can download the mod below, and yeah, I kind of plan on keep adding, to keep adding better parallax occlusion mapping. Been fixing some bugs, and yeah, I don't see it being like the main project, but I thought it was fun to kind of polish it up a little bit, get a little better reshade preset, and some more material work, and yeah. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the next video.